Hey, hey.
Not that I wouldn't like to listen to that more than one time. So, are we at time?
Yes, we are.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to tonight's event. I want to thank Trouble Lights for letting us use their original music. They headlined last year at Pride Fest, and Munwood's photography took most of those photos and really captured it. It was easy to find great photos and hard to narrow it down. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with tonight's PowerPoint. There it is, but we'll start at the beginning. There we go. Does that look right to everybody?
Does to me.
Since I've clarified that I'm kind of a dork when it comes to technology, I'll just ask up front. So welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Happy Ames Pride Fest, and welcome to the third in the Pride Fest 2020 Storytelling Project Series. Tonight is about new beginnings. I'm Susan Gent, and I'm a member of the Ames Pride Fest Storytelling Committee, and tonight I represent the Ames Public Library. As many of you realize by now, instead of a street festival this year, Ames Pride Fest is taking place virtually from June through December, spreading it out. You can find out about upcoming programming like our September 10th program about intersectional activism, and find out what entertainment is being planned, apply to tell your story. It's only August, so we still have September, October, and November storytelling ahead. And also to participate in the Pride Fest zine, see our sponsors, and you can find all that out at amespride.org. I know things are always coming up on Facebook too. I saw the September 10th program was posted there. So lots of information always getting added. So keep checking the web page. The Pride Fest 2020 Storytelling Project is presented in partnership with Ames Public Library and sponsored by the Project of Primary Health Care. The project creates opportunities for community members to participate in our Pride Fest celebration, and we're also archiving these stories. This is going to be recorded this evening. So look for stories like tonight, but the next few months' stories to be shared not only on our evening storytelling events, but also via social media posts. And you can find these, some of them at the Ames Pride YouTube channel. And you can also watch that opening video at the YouTube channel too, if you want to see if you're in it. And so stay tuned and stay connected. Before we begin, I wanted to just cover some need to know items. I mentioned the event is being recorded. We also have live captioning available via Otter. It can be accessed in the upper left-hand corner of the Zoom window by the red live box. Just click on live notes and then choose to view the stream. And we're also going to add the link in chat for anyone who doesn't find that on their screen right now. You can add your pronouns to your screen name. All you have to do is click on the participants icon at the bottom of the screen, then click more after your name, and then click rename, add your pronouns, click OK, and it should be updated. Our team is moderating the chat for appropriate interactions. We look forward to you sharing related ideas and links which are going to enhance the program. Rita will be keeping an eye on chat throughout the evening as well. And just so you know, tonight there will be some adult language and topics discussed, and we want you to be comfortable with that and know it up front. Next, I'd like to introduce tonight's speaker. I'm very excited to tell you that Dr. Rita Mookerjee, she, her, joined the core faculty at Iowa State as an assistant teaching professor in the Women's and Gender Studies program last fall, where she finds the range of her students' perspectives inspiring. She's a graduate of the English department at Florida State University, specializing in contemporary literature of the Caribbean with a focus on gender and food studies. The food studies is what really has me excited to get to know Rita more. Last winter, she started a Fulbright in Jamaica, researching local food culture in order to raise marginalized voices and to counter Jamaican stereotypes created by white people. The project was cut short, no surprise, it's COVID times, and she returned to Ames in July. Lately, Rita has been interrogating her subject position as a brown femme. When she was growing up in Pennsylvania, Rita, quote, daydreamt of a squad of powerful BIPOC femme superheroes, or maybe villains. She dreamt of finding women like herself who wanted to shred social norms and demand space and laugh in the faces of crusty white standards of art and writing, end quote. Well, there's another reason to be happy to know Rita, because she's dynamic. With her poet friend Dorothy Chan and a team of female editors, Rita recently launched an online journal, Honey Literary. It's important to her to have created a space for queer and BIPOC writers to thrive. Honey Literary accepts poetry, essays, hybrids, comics, interviews, valentines, and reviews, along with writing about animals, sex, kink, and beyond. Check it out. Tonight, Rita will reflect on her experiences as a cisgender BIPOC queer woman navigating 4 different stages within her doctoral and professional application processes. And of course, there will be poetry. Thanks for being with us, Rita. I'm really glad to have you tonight.
Thanks so much for having me. Hey, y'all. This is great. And I'm so excited that a lot of my friends are here from college, from my master's, from meeting you at the bar, and of course from my doctoral program, as well as all my amazing colleagues and students and friends here in Ames and through ISU. Hi, hi, hi. Thank you so much, and happy belated birthday to Susan. Thank you to Tomby and A and Nikki and everyone at Ames Pride Fest. I just want to let y'all know, in that slideshow, it was raining. Like, it rained. We got rained out at my first Ames Pride, and people were still serving you performance. They were giving you looks. There were people of all ages in rainbow fashions, and I remember very vividly there was a person with wings that kind of like spanned a city block. It was very exciting. It was my first Ames Pride. Ames is a really badass, positive, queer space, just so y'all know. I want to do 2 things before we start talking about my new beginnings. One, I want to dedicate this storytelling event to Randy Camp. Randy was pursuing a PhD in Human Development and Family Studies. Randy was one of our GAs in the Women's and Gender Studies program at Iowa State. Sadly, we lost Randy this past week due to complications from COVID-19. If y'all could just keep her family in your thoughts. It's a really dark time right now. And I think that we are going to take some steps in WGS to try and remember her. So Randy, this is for you. Pour one out. Also, disclaimer, because we've been having some really fun, i.e. not fun at all, conversations about free speech and First Amendment protections at Iowa State. My views are my own. Anything I say is not indicative of my employer's views, the Iowa State University, or the Women's and Gender Studies program. I am an expert, don't get it twisted, in several areas that I'm going to talk about tonight, but I'm not offering my expertise, I'm offering my story. I'm not a life expert, so do as I say, not as I do. This talk is not part of any curriculum or courses that I'm teaching at this time. So, just one time for all the free speech people. It's really funny to talk about new beginnings in 2020, because I think a lot of us feel like 2020 has been the beginning of the end. Like this is a wild and strange year, and to have finished my PhD and be in my, baby's first job out in the world as a professor during this time has been strange. So I'm going to walk you through some of my new beginnings, some good, some not so good. And I'm going to use some important artifacts to talk about these new beginnings. So I'll share some poems, as Susan said as well. There will be poetry. 3 of these poems are unpublished, and 1 is brand new, just for y'all, because we keep it fresh and funky out here in the corn, right? That's how we roll. So I'm not going to talk too much about like college or childhood or anything like that. I grew up in Pennsylvania. It was a super white place. I didn't like high school, and I don't like really thinking about it. I spent a lot of money on pharmaceutical care and counseling working through high school. And like every, gay millennial, I wanted to move to New York and be an actor. So that's what I did. So college was great. And that's, a privilege I got to enjoy. I got to find myself in the city like so many queer femmes before me. Time went on. I knew I wanted to be a scholar, wasn't so much into the acting thing. Mind you, this is like pre-Mindy Kaling, which makes me a little bit salty, but love Mindy. So I got my master's, and I chose FSU for my PhD because Florida State was the school that gave me the most money. I had read my chair's work, Robin Goodman's scholarship. She's a really badass feminist, kind of economics and labor, social history and critical theory scholar. So she's very intersectional, and I knew I wanted to work with her. So as much as she was great and was an awesome advisor to me, I picked FSU because Florida State gave me the most money. So go figure, literary scholarship isn't a lucrative field. So had to take what I could get. So I moved from, at the time, I guess, Philadelphia, New Jersey, to Tallahassee, Florida. So the thing about Florida is if you're not Floridian, you don't understand Florida. So if you're like me, you think of Florida and you think like sexy, party, Miami Beach, Cuban food, palm trees. No. Tallahassee is not, yes, Jersey represent, Tomby, absolutely. Rutgers, woo. No, Tallahassee is Panhandle, Florida. So that's pretty much Georgia. It was hot, hence the fan, right? That I just had like in my life, because I feel like as queers, like we have these things, like these lace fans, but I actually used it. It was quite functional when I moved there. I had a lot of culture shock, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, moving to Tallahassee. There was not really public transit the way I was used to. There's a bus system there. I know it exists. I've used it maybe 3 times. I think it's the most confusing thing in the world. The routes are kind of specific to certain parts of the city. For a state capital, it's like very hard to navigate, and it's not pedestrian friendly. I don't drive because I'm super bad at it, and I've only lived in cities. So that was one thing. I was kind of shocked to hear people say words like ma'am. Where I'm from, ma'am is something you would call like a very, very elderly person, maybe that you don't know. Ma'am is not something you would say to someone that you were like attempting to respect. So it's really shocking to hear students being like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And I know they were saying that because their parents taught them to say that, and it is respectful in the South. But it was very disturbing. And I would begin a lot of my classes by saying, please don't call me ma'am. And, with Tallahassee and with coming into that kind of Northern Florida atmosphere, and with my cohort at Florida State, I was back in majority whiteness that I had spent my whole adult life trying to escape and work past, because that's where I grew up, and I wasn't really interested in going back into that space. So Florida was strange. A lot of my time was spent asking, why do people like blank? Like, why do people like this thing? So Florida State, like ISU, is like a big football school. People are super into sports. And I'm like, wow, standing outside, 80-degree heat, everyone's dehydrated. Why? I notice a lot of potlucks in my department. I'm a really good cook. Susan is also a really good cook. Like, we're very into cooking and like histories of food and trends in food and stuff like that. So I don't appreciate potlucks because whatever I bring is going to be bomb. So if everyone else isn't coming to my standard, I don't really appreciate, you know, you bringing like Jello while I've made like a gorgeous creme fraiche, you know, in a phyllo dough shell with smoked salmon. I'm like making myself have like heart palpitations just talking about that. Anybody from my cohort who did summer training maybe remembers that appetizer, because I do, and it was very good. I was asking questions like, you know, why do people like this state so much? I don't really get it. I don't get what is appealing about this. Again, when you are not Floridian and you don't know Florida and you just think of Miami, and then you see something like Tallahassee, which is inland, it's like 2.5 hours from the coast. It was really hard to get into. So that frustration is how I arrived at this poem right here, which is, I hope, pleasantly salty for you. Cardboard cutout palm tree. Well, your horizontal uncanvas furniture that doesn't look the way it did in the catalog, slick, can in hand, cold condensation, you're supposed to say, this is the life. When really, you should be asking, is this my life? Because at what point do muscled cabana boys and flower tending boys and cocktail serving boys become one tan tropical amalgam, interchangeable at each location? And everyone wears that goddamn print, the hibiscus with its showy pistil jutting out like a penis, like a magic wand pointing you to the sample area where they're offering pina colada espresso shots, appealing to your desire to stockpile mini umbrellas and antioxidants. Because these are the things that you prioritize in Florida. You gulp the shot and think that it's the pick-me-up you've been missing, but when you brew it at home, the stuff tastes like mud and baby powder. So you toss the whole canister in the garbage and open the floral encyclopedia that hurts your wrists to hold. You look up hibiscus anatomy, stupid fucking flower that it is, and you wonder why people don't favor the pitcher plant, or nightshade, or gloxinia, which you read is a greenhouse plant, so it isn't in the nursery with its paved trails painted green in a bad impression of grass, sprinkled with retired people who realized too late that they didn't have any hobbies.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Rita.
Yeah. Of course. So, honestly, y'all, hobbies are so important. I have so many hobbies. I love to paint. I love to sew. Thanks for snaps. That's very cool, Nikki. I love when people snap. I love to paint. I love to sew. I love to cook. Like I said, I like to do makeup. You know, like this isn't an accident and stuff. I love to dance. So many of my hobbies overlap with my work. And so sometimes people say, how do you get so much done? Or how do you do so much? And it's because I only do things I like. I guess that's revolutionary. I don't really do anything these days unless I love it, which is an extreme privilege, but I'd also like to believe that I worked really hard to get to a point in my life where I don't really have to do anything that I don't love. So going back to my literary studies, my PhD program, I never really found my niche at FSU. I did, however, make amazing friends and allies, a lot of whom are in attendance today. Hey, y'all, represent. And they were fantastic, and they got me through some really challenging times. But especially once my mentors left, Erin, Kim, Sindhu, you know who you are, I felt very much alone. And my ambition and my success and my loud mouthedness made me a really easy target for people who didn't necessarily like the things that I had to say. I'm not a person who likes to sit quietly in class. I like to go first. I like to tell you exactly what I think, and I can be really blunt. My boss, Anne, can definitely attest to that. I love to go first. And I think for a lot of people that's insufferable. I think I would find me insufferable in a lot of ways. But I also use my loudmouthedness to call out things that I don't think are okay, like racism, like transphobia, like homophobia. I was sad to see that some stereotypes I had about the South were true. People had never heard of gender neutrality. People were very uncomfortable when I talked about how do you, scaffold in your classes? How do you learn your students' pronouns? People are like, what are you talking about? Pronouns? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and those are the kind of students we love. So thank you. Thanks, boss. Appreciate that. So in calling out things in an English department, for example, like, y'all, my friends will tell you, like, I don't like any literature that's thought of as like English literature or like writing or English as a discipline. Like, I don't study dead people who died like more than, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 years ago. I don't like classics. I think they're really boring and very poorly written, typically very uncreative. I exclusively study contemporary literature, and I believe that we should uplift and celebrate our authors while they're alive. Again, I don't know why that's unconventional, but it really is. I remember taking the literature GRE, if you can believe that such a sick, twisted exercise exists. There was not one book from my discipline, not one, on the literature GRE. So obviously I did terribly because I don't read like old, dead British white people. Sorry, Molly, one of my best girls from Florida State is a British literature scholar of the 18th century, but she does study ladies, so she holds it down. She keeps it feminist. People really didn't like that I was openly critical of our field. And I think the same way we see people called unpatriotic for criticizing the nation, that's kind of how people treated me with the discipline. They were like, oh, you don't support your colleagues, you don't support us. And I'm like, well, no, your shit is boring. I'm not going to support it. We don't need 25 more years of Shakespeare scholarship. Call me crazy, but who cares? It's irrelevant. It's not interesting. And many, many brilliant people have already expressed, great things about that canonized work. So when I would clap back at things like, hey, I don't understand why all y'all are doing motherhood studies. Mothers are cool. And people have been saying that for decades, and there's plenty of content. We need to talk about other subject positions that women have. People got really upset, really, really upset. And eventually, thanks Trinity, I always stay clapping back. Trinity Dearborn has been my student, which is exciting because now they've graduated and I can just like unfiltered like DM and message them and like text them when I'm mad about stuff. And it's really exciting to get to that point with your students. So shout out to my SIB who knows my clapbacks all too well. Eventually a lot of these, wounded white women came together and created what I call my fan club. And they complained about me and said that I was only there because of affirmative action and that I was a bully and, was intimidating people. And what I have to say about that is, okay, keep it pushing. People will always try to make you feel less than when you are doing something that makes them uncomfortable. Nobody enjoys confrontation. Well, maybe besides me. That space, when we're learning and we're changing and we're growing, it doesn't feel good all the time. I think I learned earlier in life, that's okay to not be comfortable every single minute of the day. And a lot of us live in discomfort. I think that's a really crucial part of the queer experience. So people who are not quite as acquainted with that space can be really nasty. And I think there were many people who wanted to see me fail or be wounded or do poorly or take a step back or be quiet. And, that's never going to be me. So in 2018, I started my job market run. So I was kind of wrapping up my degree, finishing my dissertation, and going on the job market. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with sort of that process, unlike normal jobs in rational fields, you don't just like send an application in or like do an interview. There are multiple rounds of that. There are dozens of documents you're expected to produce. And so there are several rounds of interviews. Usually people go ahead and submit their documents. Then you'll get like a first round, maybe Skype interview is typically how it's done now. Then maybe another round of Skype interview. And then universities that are interested in you will fly you out to their campus where you do like a 48-hour kind of like marathon activity of just like interviews, meeting students, meeting your potential colleagues, talking with people on campus. It's a wild and crazy time. I am a Virgo, so like stress is like something that I love and I thrive on, but it was still extremely hard. And so in preparing to go out on the job market, right, where people are going to see my face and look at me and be aware of who I am as a subject, I had a lot of questions. The faculty and different people who were in charge of preparing us to go and interview really advised neutrality. They said, you know, try to keep it about your scholarship, try to keep it about the work. There's nothing neutral about me at all. I was doing my PhD under Trump, and that only made me feel more militant, and it showed me how much I need my students and how much my students need me just the same. And so when I ask for more advice, you know, I don't, yeah, fuck professionalism. That's right, Trinity. I ask for more advice, like, what do you mean? I do this very niche, strange literature, and it's about me, and it's about my own lived experience just as much as it is the books I read. I just became more confused. So when I asked for help about things, I got brushed off a lot. So one thing that I was really concerned about was rings and jewelry, not in the sense that I wear a lot of it, because obviously that's apparent if you can see me, but I was thinking about how sexist the academy is and how much people just really try to bring women down. And so I was asking, you know, are people going to look at my rings and read me as a cisgender straight woman who's maybe married and therefore interested in having children or starting a family and is therefore a flight risk? You see where I'm going? Like, I just felt all of these layers of anxiety, and people would say things like, well, no one should be talking about that. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. When you meet someone, when you see them, you read properties, right, into who they are. You read different symbols culturally, and sometimes we don't even mean to. So that was why I had this slide be these talismans of mine. Those are the rings I was wearing at the time. When I asked for advice on things like, they ask you to write a diversity statement, which today in 2020, I feel great about writing. I feel like I can pioneer a new kind of diversity statement. At the time I was like, I don't know what this is supposed to look like and what it's supposed to mean. Could you please give me an example? The example that I was given was authored by a straight, cis, able-bodied white man. And he, I think, did a really, really bad job. Big oof. That's right. I don't know why every time Trinity types, it's like I have like radar for Trinity's comments. They just keep grabbing my eye. So I was really disappointed, because if you say, I want to espouse diversity and I want to make that is facepalm for sure. And I want to make people feel welcome and comfortable. Why point to the person with the most possible privilege? In his statement, this person talked about like diversity of text and like, I teach many genres, and so my classes are diverse. And I'm like, that's not what that means. Like, it was really cringeworthy and disheartening. So I was feeling very paranoid. I was feeling very uncomfortable. Audre Lorde is rolling in her grave. That's exactly right. She's like, your silence will not protect you, and like lies back down, and she rolls again, and she's like, the erotic is power, and lies back down. All my students right now are like having PTSD from homework readings. So I was feeling paranoid and I was feeling very uncomfortable with self-presentation. I felt like schools that advertised wanting a person like me wanted certain parts of me and they wanted me to suppress or diminish others. And this poem right here came from that world of paranoia.
I grew eyes at the nape of my neck from spending too much time in white space, which alternates between cradling me and squeezing my guts out. Some time ago, I reached back and felt them there, linking under my dark ponytail. When I don't use them, they crust with lymph and old skin. I have to rub to coax them out of my tendons, knotted and taut. Open, my eyes all itch as though the air around me is forever spiked with goldenrod. And for this reason, I can't process comfort, a place where my odd body ends and the world begins. Eyes 3 and 4 don't react much to light, but they water in lust, squint in intimacy, bulge at rejection. They narrow each time that someone deems me an alien, a problem, an anomaly, or a bitch. In white space, my body shrinks because I can never extend my limbs to fit the shape assigned to me. I wish that all 4 eyes had powers like heirloom amulets, 2 lookouts, always on high alert for temptation and fraud, 2 to guide me from niche to temporary niche, until the day comes that space has been made for my odd brown body so that I can rest all 4 eyes and expand to fill my space. Sometimes I profit from my many eyes, however swollen, however sore. In white space, people line up to gawk at the back of my neck. They nod together to appreciate my vitriol and scorn. They buy my books, then rip me from any niche that I try to claim as mine.
If you're curious, in the end, I did things my way. I sat with my paranoia and I talked to good friends and people that I trusted. And I said, screw it, I'm not neutral. No world that I exist in is going to see me as neutral. And I'm just going to go for it. I just like shat on Trump in one of my teaching presentations. And like, you know, when I came here actually to ISU, to Ames, the first like sit down with all my colleagues that I had, and we were having breakfast together at Stomping Grounds. And one of the first things we did was talk about what a terrible president Trump was. So truly, I felt like it didn't matter one way or the other if I had neutralized myself or if I had not. Like, my people knew me when they saw me, and I knew them when I saw them, if that makes sense. So, which leads us to artifact 3. Here you see my glasses. I love oversized glasses and tortoiseshell. I actually knelt on my old pair and I loved them, which was very sad. Those ones were Prada, but these ones are Tory Burch. Keep it cute. No, I'm all about the labels because I worked really hard to make enough money to buy them. So this artifact's relationship to my new beginning here in Ames is a lot less literal. This is more of a figurative artifact. So got a little ethereal with me, get a little abstract. So after many months of just agonizing and waiting, interviews, traveling across the country, I got my job here at Iowa State. Now, if you would have told me, rewind, that Ames, Iowa was going to be my spot and I was going to be like, yes, like that is where I want to be, I would have laughed. I would have laughed. I'm still learning Iowa, so I'm like learning where cities are and stuff. And honestly, like I kind of love everywhere I've been. Granted, I don't go to a lot of like scary, like rural, middle of nowhere places, but moving from Tallahassee, that's what I was afraid of. I was like, is this going to be another red state and another kind of Trumpy college town? Thank you. Yes, I loved coming here. Anne can remember, my boss can remember very clearly, my campus visit was during the polar vortex. So talk about like all the elements being against you, like quite literally. I got here and I went to sleep in an Airbnb. 10 inches of snow accumulated in the night. It was wild. Yes, thank you, Tanvi. I appreciate that. I think people don't get that sometimes when we criticize, you know, rural small towns and kind of liminal spaces in these red states, it is about safety. It is genuinely about our safety. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And so, right, I was nervous. I was like, is this going to be another Tallahassee? Is, you know, Iowa State going to be like Florida State? That's not what I found at all. And so what I did find were groups of Indigenous women farmers and people doing food studies and women's history through farm culture. I found all my amazing students, especially all my queer sibs out there, and my incredible colleagues who are very sophisticated scholars and constantly inspire me to step it up, keep my game sharp, and they make me want to come to work and be my best self. I met my partner, hi Nick, which was large as far as developments go in my life. I was in a long-term relationship when I started my PhD, didn't work out. And then I just didn't date for like 4 or 5 years. Aw, that's nice, babe, heart. Because frankly, I just didn't feel safe. And I wasn't in a headspace to open up to others and have that sense of vulnerability. So I think what was most impactful was that I found my program. I found Women's and Gender Studies at Iowa State, and my boss, and I keep talking about, really just understands my goals and gets what it is I came here to do. And talk about privilege, like so many of my fellow queer sibs of color in academia right now are being actively silenced, actively castigated, and criticized for their politics and for their curriculum. And I can't tell you what a comfort it is to know that I am supported and my curriculum predates me. Like, this is just what ISU WGIS was already doing. They're already trying to be on some intersectional stuff. So it feels really good to be heard and to be seen, right? It's 2020, we've talked about this. There's a lot of tension. The groups that I teach about are not hypothetical groups or imagined groups or historical groups, right, from the past. They're actively being murdered, right? So while we have support for people like George Floyd, like Breonna Taylor, and that support and that activism has been consistent, I don't know about y'all, but I haven't heard a peep from the media about people like Bree Black, Remy Fells, Mercy Mack, Brayla Stone, Shakee Peters, Drea McCarty. I'm just thinking off top, right? Black trans women that have been murdered. These are the names that we know of, right? These are not even the names that encompass all of the people who have been subject to this kind of violence. And just as recently as last year, in 2019, the American Medical Association declared the violence against Black women in this country an epidemic, okay, pre-COVID, right? We were experiencing an epidemic in this country. And I think, again, in academia, sometimes we talk about like proverbial stuff and abstract stuff, and that's not the nature of the content I teach here at all. The people that I champion and the people that I advocate for are actively being brutalized right now, today. And that's really scary to know that you're standing up for something and you're trying to be parallel to or adjacent to groups that are targeted and treated with so much vitriol and so much callousness in addition to that violence, which is probably why last October, as I was getting ready for my first Ames Pride, the city went ahead and unveiled these rainbow crosswalks. And for those of you who don't know Ames, once in the after, I hope you'll come see me and come visit us out here in the corn. We have crosswalks of the pride flag, the rainbow pride flag with a black and brown strip added. We have a crosswalk of the non-binary flag and a crosswalk of the trans pride flag. And when I saw those crosswalks unveiled, I was like, whoa, I had never seen anything like that, even in like the neighborhood, in like Philly or Boys Town in Chicago, or, you know, even in San Francisco. I hadn't really seen something like that. The federal government actually sent the city of Ames some memos and were like, you're not allowed to have color in your crosswalks. That's against like traffic rules. And Ames said, too bad, so sad. We have rainbow crosswalks and you can freaking deal with it. And that's how I knew I was just somewhere really special. And I was somewhere where people were ready to listen. And so I wanted to show my glasses too, because I see things clearly now. I had misconceptions, and I was really glad that those were corrected. And Anthony, hell yes, we will watch out for our own. And even in the interim, like, we will take care of our people. I was just talking to, you know, Kim Hope, one of our most beloved WGS figures. I was just telling her, like, you cannot mess with this house. This is a sacred place and you are not welcome to mess with this house. And if you do, there is hell to pay. Quote me on that, actually. Do that. And so something else really special about being at Iowa State, which, yes, Caleb, I think Queer Mecca Among the Corn is good. Maybe that will be our book. Y'all want to do an anthology? Let's propose that. I think some publishers would like that. Another really interesting thing about Iowa State is that it's a STEM school. So it's really strange to be doing like everything I love, talking about topics that resonate with me, and having this huge international population of like Indian students, Chinese students, a lot of students from the Asian continent in general, but seeing that and seeing them in my classes, you know, just trying to like fill out some of these credits, can be really exciting, and it's made me interrogate my pedagogy in a new way. Right, Anne? And beans. Yes, beans are so important. Yes, corn and beans, just staples. Very good. So sometimes when students take my classes, they can be a little bit shocked, a little bit taken aback, I think, by me and someone that looks like this, being a professor, and by my course content, which I think is pretty overtly radical, intersectional, interested in growth. Yeah, the soybeans around Ames do hit different. That's true. Edamame for the win. One of my favorite things about teaching and teaching with, you know, all these different folks from all across the colleges is unveiling possibilities. And in my queer studies class last year, this is one of my favorite days, maybe ever. I had my students writing on the whiteboards. I said, go write all the euphemisms you know for sex acts, like all genders, you know, all orientations, all sorts of contact, sex acts, right? Euphemisms, go write them on the board. And so people were like, and we were like being really productive and writing a lot. And someone was like, you're going to get fired for this. And I was like, no. This is rhetorical analysis. Like, this is how we make sense of discourse. Like, we're going to parse out all of this and we're going to unpack meaning. Like, yes, it is objectively fun to write a bunch of obscenities all over the whiteboards in, you know, our STEM school. But also we had an incredible conversation from that exercise. And my pal, Dorothy Chan, hi, and I talk about this a lot, and how much I love you too, how much we love to shatter our students' preconceived notions of what's academic or what is intellectual, right? What is worthy of our time in the academy. We love just like kind of messing with that and busting that up. So here's a poem about me and Dorothy and teaching and being Asian American.
On brown and yellow college students, making it work. Through the Iowa cornfields, I ride the bus. When the international students get on, I read their Nike and their Supreme to figure out who's been in the country the longest. They don't need to read me. The tattoos, piercings, the iPhone shoved into a bra cup. Only American brown girls are this shameless. I smile, but they look off into the crops. They're not really sure what to make of me. White kids always call them cliquey, but really they just room together so they can cook japchae and dosas in peace without fear of Becky coming in with a wrinkled nose, giggling to her friends once the door shuts. The international students air dry their hair and wear it long in ponytails looped low. Although their clothes are taut from the dryer, they'd rather hang them outside like they do back home. This all makes me think of my parents living in Madison in the 80s in their studio apartment with the card table of the woman who'd pay my mom 25 cents an hour to babysit while my dad studied for comps. Today in Wisconsin, Dorothy's colleagues have concerns about teaching international students. The adjuncts worry about TOEFL scores, cultural barriers, strange customs of bows and scarves. I picture Dorothy's hair flip, her perfect Hong Kong swagger and American scoff combo. She and I have no patience for this type of talk, as if brown and yellow kids like us crawl out of straw huts after penning college applications with sticks dipped in mud, as if half these faculty members could leave their family behind, fly overseas to end up in the middle of nowhere with only a backpack and still graduate top of their class. I think of the bonds my parents made with other brown and yellow people in married student housing, pulling all-nighters, just trying to make it work in a weird new place that offers everything and nothing. In grad school, I followed suit. I'd eat with Dorothy because our Chinese and Indian palates fused together with plenty of slick dumplings, sizzling kebabs, stewed veggies, and rice to soak up the grease. We'd eat, talk fashion, and make big lesson plans. I'd tell her how I wish more brown and yellow kids would come take my classes, learn some radical things, break character, but they're here to become engineers, programmers, doctors. I wish they'd come be my students, because what's more badass than a Pakistani neurosurgeon armed with a glove full of feminism? All the fears of white America rolled into one body, slicing through the breadbasket with a scalpel. I'll keep chasing this vision in Iowa, where my movers haven't brought my boxes yet, which pisses me off, because all I want are my pots and pans to cook aloo sabzi and coconut curry, watch the neon splatters color my plates marigold, and let the heavy smell waft through the building to let everyone know I'm here.
And I ain't going anywhere anytime soon. Thanks, y'all. I love reading your commentary. This whole interface is so interesting for type of event. So for now, I'm here. I'm sticking around. So this final artifact also has to do with one of my hobbies. So these are some tarot cards gifted by my pal, Kim Anderson, who loves Art Nouveau as much as me. And a lot of people misunderstand tarot, or at least don't really care to inspect its origins. Tarot were first and foremost a game. So in Italy, you would pull cards and you would take inspiration from the different cards that you would get, and you would do like poems and stories about your friends based on them, almost like a Mad Lib or MASH or something like that. I'm showing my age a little bit with that. I don't know if y'all did Mad Libs when you were coming up. So no one really claimed that tarot could tell the future, although I really enjoy that application. Okay, thank you. Good. Glad other people love Mad Libs. Thank you. I really wanted to offer this image to talk about circumstances and unpredictability. So a new beginning that I was really excited for, that Susan mentioned in my intro, was winning my Fulbright and getting to move to Jamaica for a year and just do my research and focus on women and food and art and books. But COVID-19 swiftly put a stop to that. So I moved back home and I tried to figure out a plan. And for a really long time, I couldn't do it. The climate in this country, seeing people's apathy, seeing people's aggression, the ignorance, it was really, really hard for me to work through. Yes, that blasted tower is in there, trust and believe. Also, I didn't do a reading for this. I first started only pulling like really gay tarot cards, and then I was like, no, that's too like on the nose, like let it be organic. So blasted tower came up, and like, you know, Queen of Swords, she's out there, she's serving face in her pink silk. So yeah, that wasn't like a reading or anything. But with time passing and sort of thinking about everything that's going on, especially in our country, I moved back to Ames, and police brutality and COVID just surged, right? And so it was really hard for me to care about some of the research that I had begun in my doctorate. It was hard for me to care about the intersections of women's queerness and, you know, the tourist industry per, you know, evidence in this context. Like, who cares? Like, people are dying all the time. It got really hard for me to care about that research. So I scrapped it. And I put it aside, and I made room for new projects and new collaborations, and I carved out space for myself to do things that I cared about. Like I said before, I don't do anything unless I'm like 100% committed to it. I'm not going to do anything half-ass in my life. I don't want to be remembered that way. And so I worked on new things. Shout out to my colleagues Sandra and Michelle. We wrote a revamped statement on building from the 1999 movement on why we need to rename Cat Hall, say it again for the people in the back. And that, you know, nourishes me and makes me feel a lot more revitalized than the work that maybe was more scholarly or more germane to my discipline or more germane to my training. And oh, my cat just like meowed in agreement. That was really cute. And so carving out that space for myself is sometimes changing my research. Ryu's like, yes, you certainly did change your research. You changed it a lot. And sometimes carving out that space for myself is me in bed playing Animal Crossing, right? I need to take stock, you know, of what I have. Yes, the prince is here. Everybody knows Ryu from Florida State. I was like the dog person who also like didn't have pets, and then I got this little black kitten, and everybody knows him because he's got a big personality. He's got a lot to say because he was born under Trump, you know? But back to tarot, right, and circumstances. I needed to really take stock of what I have, what I need, what I want, and what I can and cannot control. And so there's really nothing normal about 2020. And I took this time to renew a commitment to myself, to working on myself, be it in therapy, working on my pedagogy, being a good professor, being a good colleague, or being a good friend, just really self-reflecting and making that space when I need it, taking a step back when I need to. When possible, I've tried to even embrace some of the strangeness that's come with this, and just own it, own my feelings and own my experience in this time, even if it means, you know, making myself uncomfortable or sticking my neck out. So I hope that this final poem encourages all y'all to embrace your strangeness too. It's a really weird poem.
Love song for sourness, stink, and my acid tongue. In college, my girlfriends learned that drinking vinegar could cure UTIs. They tried the remedy. I watched them cringe and suffer. But honestly, that apple cider sting got me the wettest I've ever been. And even now, I watch people wince at raw onion when, left to my own devices, I could crunch a red one whole. What else is a rude ass bitch supposed to eat? When others smell skunk, I see Lux Onyx Pelt, peaty, with white dabs of creme fraiche. And maybe I'm obsessed with dirty, but not dirty like urea bursting from stone corners in Union Square, never the subway or other people's trash full of plastic and vinyl. Petrol is as close as I can get. And as a teen, I huffed acetone, which was a lot like early masturbation, flits of good heat when I got it right. Now I can take a lemon or a lime and with my teeth tear right into the bulb. At first it hurt to feed my acid tongue. The skin in my cheeks grew loose and white with ulcers. But now it is thick and hard, so I can speak the poetry of swamps, the densest smells, the deepest pigments, the divine green gifts in decay. And maybe this is my superpower, so that when the water runs putrid or foul powder fills the air, I can brave a bog and run through acid rain, unburnt, unpoisoned, simply opening my mouth for what stimulates it most. I can adapt. So fear my bark and my bite. I'm tannin, I'm toxin, I'm tart. Always.
Okay, so we are just about at time. Yes, bark and bite, that's right, come correct. So I just want to acknowledge that, just in case people need to get going. Obviously, it's Saturday night, things to do, self-care to be had. But we did want to take a little moment for, what do you think, Susan? Q&A-esque?
Well, what do you think based on chat?
Yeah, no, if y'all have any other like burning thoughts and feelings.
I do want to make sure that we get the links to your work and to Honey Literary put in chat.
Oh yeah.
I've got a colleague who's going to pop that in there. Just
Yes,
in
please.
case anyone does need to leave, let's get that out there.
Hey, Anthony, what's up? How do we? Oh, I love you, McKenna. Thank you for coming.
Well, shall we talk about your works?
Yeah. Let's do it. So, first and foremost, Dorothy, who you heard a lot about tonight, and I just launched our BIPOC queer-centric literary journal, Honey Literary. We open for submissions on September 1st. Send to us. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. We have a TikTok. I don't know how to use that shit, but one of our masthead editors, Maria Clara, is really great at it, and I'm very excited about that. So yes, we did get TikTok. We're coming correct. If you like my poetry and what I do, I have my chapbook, Becoming the Bronze Idol, and a co-authored ekphrastic chapbook called Protection Rituals. Those are for sale if you like my work. And if you want to, I think we have a slide on social media, right? Yeah. If you're, if you're ISU kind of out here trying to pick up some more knowledge, I'm giving a Feminist Fridays talk. You've heard it here first. It's called Not Cancel Culture, Just Consequences. And that's going to be Friday the 13th, keeping it on brand, at 1 p.m. And yeah, so go ahead and register for that if you're an Iowa State student or staff or faculty member. And yeah, you can always follow me on Instagram, Melanincolia. See what I did there? Jokes, puns. I recently got Twitter, which is terrifying, but I'm at Rita Mookerjee, and you can get in touch with me on those platforms.
Do you see the Q&A? There were.
Let's see, Q&A, clicking. Have I ever listened to Lemon Boy? I don't think so. Maybe that's more of a rhetorical question, and I should listen to Lemon Boy. Oh, anyone can listen and register for Feminist Fridays. Hold on, Nikki is getting the link. Yeah. Okay, I thought that was only ISU people, but apparently that's not true. So that's great news.
About it being virtual is that anyone can join.
Yay!
So
that's so democratic and nice.
Lemonade.
Yes. Lemon Boy.
Well, it looks like one more question. Otherwise, I'm gonna just pop in and thank everyone. This is Susan Gent. Thank everyone for being here. Rita, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you. It's really refreshing to meet someone who moves from, well, I know you weren't on the coast, but coast-ish, and comes to central Iowa and doesn't bash it. So thank you, and looking forward to seeing how your work evolves as our world evolves. And I also knew you were a Virgo. I just knew it.
You knew it.
So
thank you.
The storytelling project and the Pride Fest committee do a lot of work every week, so I want to thank those folks for making all this happen. Measure creates the graphics and did the promotional slide for today, which really was awesome. Our sponsor is Primary Healthcare. Our partner is the Ames Public Library. Give us some feedback in the chat because we're recording this, and we appreciate your feedback. I want to give a little shout out to the programming team who comes up with really, really wonderful programming time and time again. So Thursday, September 10th at 7 p.m. is Intersectional Activism with disability rights activist Rima McCoy-McDeed. And our next storytelling project is Saturday, September 26th. And don't forget about the zine. This is something that needs a lot of different people's voices shared. It's going to come out in December, but the deadline for submissions is the end of October. So it's time to check that out and see how you want to participate, and follow Ames Pride on Facebook, Instagram. Check out the YouTube videos. We'll get this up soon, and everything will always be at amespride.org. So thanks, Rita. Wonderful stories tonight.
Thank you so much. And thanks y'all for making time for me. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Hello. Are you still there?
Yeah,
we're here.
Okay, I was wondering about how people try to avoid confrontation when having to deal with political issues for their work.
Oh yeah, when at work. Yeah.
I'm a political science student. It comes up a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm super lucky in the academy because I basically am doing what I do because of my politics. But I know not everyone is that lucky, and I think sometimes we have to pick our battles, right? We have to protect ourselves and protect our labor, and protect, when someone is asking you a question but they don't really want to hear the answer. I think that's always my best comment on this type of topic, is just pick your battles. If you think someone is actually interested in hearing you, particularly if they're in a position of power, if they actually are saying, I don't understand, what is this, right? That's an open question. Open questions are great, but protect your labor. You are doing enough, right, by engaging that. And so if someone in good faith is going to say, I'd like to talk to you more about that, that's awesome. And that's an open conversation, and we can all benefit from that. But if someone is coming at you in bad faith and saying, I'm asking you about this because I want to debate you. Someone recently was telling me that I'm a fascist because I don't let my students debate whether or not queer and trans people deserve rights. And so I was like,
Yeah, like people
yeah.
tell me I'm not existing and that I am pretending to be a guy.
Right. So it's like, oh, you're
Uh-huh.
coming at me crazy and you're telling me I don't exist when here I am in front of your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, not cool. Never down for that. Save your labor. Your labor is valuable. You have knowledge that that person is not in any kind of, emotional or existential plane to accept, and that's on them. They need to get a little bit more complex, maybe pray on it, maybe meditate on it, but that's never on you. And I think that when it feels like that is bordering on like danger, or someone is inhibiting your ability to like function or learn or like do what it is you got up to do that day, grab me, just grab people that are allies that you can trust, because we're not interested in entertaining that kind of bullshit. It's not a debate. We're not here to debate people's existence, like you said.
It could be a little bit more complicated in political science, but I am completely down for that. I wanted to make the political science department a little bit better about this stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the one weird trans kid in the political science department.
Yeah, I hear that. And I hope that there are people in political science who are open to conversations about how to make their classrooms more inclusive, how to make their curriculum inclusive. And if not, they can kick rocks. We don't have room for that at Iowa State. I don't know what messaging they're seeing, what Iowa State Daily Dose they read, but this is a queer inclusive space. Like, I don't work here because it's, whatever, like chic or convenient or whatever. Like, I'm here because I'm here to make sure people like you can get education and be safe and be treated with fucking respect, right? So if people want to get with it and get with the vibe, that's cool. And if not, I'll have some words. So that's all I have to say.
It's not the professors, it's usually students after class when there's no professors there. So